I find that the way that the Extinction Rebellion is attacking people's day-to-day lives as perhaps not the best way to get a message across. Yeah. They are no doubt achieving their goal of being heard. But they're also taking people in their day-to-day lives, people who they need as allies, people who will probably agree with them, and pushing them up against a wall with nowhere to go. Really good point. So in Extinction Rebellion, this topic comes up all the time. G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. It's really good to have you back, I'll be honest, okay? It's really good to have you there. If you want to listen to this on iTunes or Spotify, you can do that as well. And our clips channel is also there if you want to digest these clips in smaller little bits. Don't forget to check that out, the link is down below. This show's an absolute cracker, but before we get stuck into it, we have today's sponsor. And today's sponsor, the good people at Lifecycle. They are back, absolute legends here. They look after the Buttsman, they look after this channel, so you should look after them. But what is Lifecycle? Ladies and gentlemen, they're all about natural parts of the world and giving that to the people through the beauty that is mushrooms. Now, you may not know much about mushrooms, but the people at Lifecycle do. They have lots of different extracts. Let me just go through some of them, if you may. They've got the reishi extract for when you're just looking to just calm it down a little bit, take a step off the pedal, and let me show you this one. They've got the cordyceps mushroom for you're ready to get going, get after the day, or get a bit ready to go in the boudoir. The cordyceps is where it's at, ladies and gentlemen. The Buttsman skulls a bit of this. He doesn't really. He takes the recommended amount. Turkey tail is one of the important ones. I really think this one's really cool because it looks after your gut flora. Now, we talk a lot about on this podcast, and a lot of people are talking about your gut in the moment and the link between the guts and the brain. This is where turkey tail comes in. Don't worry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I've got my turkey tail happening. And the holy shiitake, ladies and gentlemen, look at this holy shiitake. It's all happening. This keeps my skin glistening, my nails pure, and me looking gorgeous for when I take the stage in front of the millions and millions of good motherfuckers all around the globe. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you this. If you go to this website right now, if you get stuck into Lifecycle, if you make it a part of your life like I have, head to the checkout code with a little coupon that says Buttsman10 and you'll get 10% off and you'll become a part of the Lifecycle family. And the other sponsor for today's podcast is Surfshark VPN. These guys have been with me for a long time and I trust them. Now, you need a VPN, okay? Let me just tell you that. When you're surfing the web or you're doing whatever, especially if you're using public Wi-Fi systems, you spend, believe it or not, you spend as much time sleeping as you do on the internet. And guess what? Most people aren't protected, and that's when you need a VPN. They come in and they protect all your data that's going through these little tunnels in the interweb and all that stuff that nobody understands, and they protect it. They're like a security guard. They say, hey, mate, listen here, you little soy boy trying to access me passwords and me credit card information. You bugger off, all right? You're not happening. Get out of here, right? Yeah. It also allows you to access TV shows on like Netflix and streaming services like that, which you can't access in Australia. It also works with YouTube when content is blocked in a certain country. That's just ridiculous, right? It's 2019. Let me access things, yeah? Well, now with Surfshark VPN, you can have your VPN in that particular country and you can access whatever you want. You can also use Surfshark VPN to save mobile data and quicken your browsing speeds. That is an absolute incredible. You can block ads on your mobile device or your laptop, and what that actually does is increase the amount of speed that is associated with your connection. You can see things, you can load porn up heaps quicker. It's fantastic, all right, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you're interested in Surfshark VPN, which I absolutely assure you should be, you head right now to surfshark.deals/Butterfield and hit the discount code Butterfield to get 83% off, and 1 month free right now. Surfshark VPN, good on yous. Ladies and gentlemen, today's podcast is it's with a person directly from the people at the Extinction Rebellion, ladies and gentlemen. The people standing in the middle of the street screaming and just annoying people. This gentleman was a fine person. We had a great chat. So please, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. This is my conversation with Paul Herman. Alrighty. G'day, mate.
G'day.
What's going on?
Well, I'm here to convince people to work with us and save the planet.
Okay. And
how's that?
What group are you a part
of? Extinction Rebellion is one, but I'm a part of other groups as well. So, yeah, I've had some involvement with some other groups, and I've donated money to some funds as well. So a few conservation funds, so where they're trying to preserve wildlife.
Sure. And where are they based? Like, what's the main sort of focus? I know.
Mainly Australian.
Okay.
So last Christmas, instead of giving a useless present, I gave a donation to, I don't know, $20 or something to the orangutan fund. So that was outside of Australia.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah. But like I have a life outside of environmental pursuits as well. So
yeah. What is your life outside of environmental pursuits?
So I started my working life as an arborist. So quite a lot of that is involved with cutting down trees in suburbia, and also just it's tree care and tree removal. So trees grow big, and so sometimes it just doesn't work in a urban environment. It may be too big for the position. So,
power lines, all that type of stuff.
Yeah. Over roofs. So I did that for 21 years, and then I came up here and I wanted to make my fortune and provide for my retirement. And so I started buying land, and I also on Russell Island, and also bought a couple of houses. But I was a bit too gung-ho, and the banks lent me more money than they should have. Mm-hmm. So I later found out that National Australia Bank fraudulently altered my loan application form. So when I fill out the form, they went and changed the figures later and increased the income by 700%.
Really?
This came out in the Banking Royal Commission.
Wow.
NAB got into trouble for doing a bit of that. And,
good.
And so I had a health issue, and the property market turned, and I wasn't able to keep paying. And then I was advised to get a copy of my loan application forms from ANZ and National Bank. ANZ Bank increased my income by 400%, reduced my liabilities down to a quarter.
Wow.
So I thought, look, I don't want to go bankrupt. I'll fight. But it's been a really long fight.
Yeah. And you've continued that fight in other endeavours as well.
Yes.
So tell me about the Extinction Rebellion. We're hearing a lot about those people. Because a lot of people are being held up in traffic. They're having their days changed. Is that sort of the exact same process that you follow? Are you a part of that sort of group?
Yes. So we started a group down here on the Gold Coast, but Brisbane had started quite a bit earlier, and I think that Extinction Rebellion in the UK started just over a year ago. So it's a very new organisation, and we reckon that climate change, if it's allowed to continue, is going to cause a lot of disruption. And we want to bring that to the attention of the public, and we want to also have an influence on government. Because in my case, like I've been involved with the environmental movement over 30 years, and they don't give a shit. So if you're a voice, wanting to preserve something, it's really, really hard to get government to listen if there's developers who are, for example, that's one example, who are paying the election funding, so giving political donations.
Money wins at the end of the day.
And that's what's the problem right through this issue, because we've got foreign miners like Adani, is an Indian miner, and they're paying political donations to the Queensland government, to the federal government, and our governments are doing their bidding, not the bidding of the people, or not what's best for the people. They're doing the bidding of the miners, and that's disgusting. That's not democracy. That's some sort of, I don't know what the hell it is, but it's corrupt.
Okay.
Which is terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we find that in a lot of different things, not just environmental stuff. But now, I sort of want to ask straight off the bat, with the Extinction Rebellion, I am not a climate change denier
Right.
at all. I think that's a bit of a dirty word. I think we should be able to question things.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
I'm not a activist.
No.
I'm one of these people that thinks...
You are a bit.
In what respect?
Oh, I think, listening to your podcasts, I think that, you care passionately about certain issues, about men's issues.
Yep.
And I think that's, I think that if the public gets more involved, the less corrupt politicians we're going to have.
Sure.
You have an influence on.
And I absolutely
society.
do not disagree with it for a second that the government is corrupt. Every government in the world is corrupt. They're pigs. Money wins at the end of the day. I find that the way that the Extinction Rebellion is attacking people's day-to-day lives as perhaps not the best way to get a message across.
Yeah.
They are no doubt achieving their goal of being heard. They're also taking people in their day-to-day lives, people who they need as allies, people who will probably agree with them, and pushing them up against a wall with nowhere to go. And I feel that a lot of people in that situation, and I've certainly felt this with some of the crusades, if you will, that I've been on, that when you put people in that situation, all they seem to do is retaliate. They close, they have blinders on, they stop listening to what people have to say, and they, for lack of a better term, hate the idea, hate the group that is bringing that on. And when you're standing in front of people's cars, when you're blocking off streets, people don't think about the climate change. They just think about the people that are doing that, and then they associate that with the work that you're trying to do and the message you're trying to put out, and they don't want to listen.
Really good point. So in Extinction Rebellion, this topic comes up all the time. So, and I went along to a meeting and I argued really strongly that this shouldn't, like road blocking, shouldn't be such a big focus. And I guess personally I've waxed and waned with it as an issue, but and down on the Gold Coast we're less likely to do roadblocks.
Yeah.
So we're just not quite as enthusiastic about it. But there's a lot of other tactics that I think that do bring on board the community. But I would say that it's been, I think, outrageously successful for Extinction Rebellion. I don't know if we want to continue doing it, but the amount of publicity has been amazing. Like we had an Rebellion week, and there was just amazing media coverage, which
But people hate you. They do.
Yeah, look.
People are angry, and they don't hate you on a personal level.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that for a second.
Some of them do, and it is really personal. You've got a social media presence, and with certain issues that they're very controversial, and so do we. So, I've seen probably over the last few months that the coal industry people, so some of them are trolls, so some of them are really backed by the coal industry with fake news and fake science. I don't mean to jump all over the place, but
no, go for it.
This is an example of bullshit that the coal industry is putting out.
So this is saying the worldwide coal plants.
Yeah.
Here's a number of coal plants, coal-powered plants today.
Yeah.
The EU has 468 plants, building 27 more.
If you go down the bottom, it's got Australia, and I think Australia's got 6, and we're going to close the lot of them. But if you go back up and have a look at the Philippines, it's got 19, and they're building 60 more. Now, does that sound like it's true? Why would the Philippines build another 60 coal-fired power plants at the moment?
I have no idea. I know nothing about the Philippines.
Well, it's nor do I, but it's obviously bullshit. Why would they build 60 power plants?
I don't know.
And have a look at all the statistics there. It's fake news.
But how can you? I don't know anything about the Philippines, and you just said you don't either. How do you know that this is fake news?
Looks. I guess with science, you're skeptical, and I start from a point of skepticism.
And you're allowed to be skeptical. I'm not saying you shouldn't be skeptical.
I'm starting from a point of being skeptical.
For the Philippines, which is generally a smaller country than a lot of these, that is a lot of power plants.
Yeah.
But you can't say that that's not going to happen.
Increasing them by 300%.
But do we have any evidence that says it's not happening?
Look,
if you have evidence that's saying it's not happening, then okay, it's not happening.
I'm just suggesting that might be fake news.
But it may be.
Yeah.
But you said it is.
We get a lot of that sort of stuff. And some of it, like I can demonstrate that it's fake.
This one?
Not that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not saying you're wrong.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that if we're going to go around
What
saying...
do you reckon, though?
I don't know. I don't know anything about coal power plants.
Yeah.
60 sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
In what? In how many years are they planning this?
It says building.
Building?
An extra 300%.
But is that over 10 years? Is that over 20 years?
Don't know.
But to use that as a piece of evidence...
Okay. I'll give you another example.
Okay.
So there's a geologist called Ian Plimmer.
Yes.
And he said that the amount of energy that you've got to put in to build a wind farm or a solar farm is more than the energy that they will produce. Now, if that was the case, the more wind farms you build and the more solar farms or solar on the roofs that you produce, you'd have to have more coal-fired power stations, but we're closing them down. So in England, they've actually gone coal-free for a couple of weeks, so they're not burning any coal.
Yeah.
And they've got they've got a lot of wind farms, so they're producing a lot of wind farms, building a lot of wind farms.
And I agree that reducing the amount of coal being burned and released into the atmosphere, fossil fuels, I agree that regardless of any science, you don't want to be breathing in shit, right?
Sure.
That makes absolute sense. Absolute sense. And I think that makes absolute sense to anyone. I think the argument with the wind farms and the solar, like perhaps the technology is just not quite there. And it should. Okay, what do you got?
I'm glad you brought up that topic because this is the cost to produce power from wind and solar. So it's
can you explain what the costs are as well?
This is coal.
Yep.
Okay, so it's about half. So that the power generated from coal costs about twice as much. Okay, but the advantage of coal is that you can burn it at night, which you can't do with solar.
Sure.
With wind, the wind blows sometimes at night too, so it's a little bit better. But if you bring in batteries, then the wind is, not with batteries, you've got to have pumped hydro. So it's where you pump water up. So when the wind's blowing, you pump water up the hill. And then when the wind stops blowing, you let the water down and it drives a turbine. So, and that produces your electricity. So with pumped hydro, wind farms come in just under coal. Okay. And that's with the technology that we've got. And it's getting cheaper.
So does that takes into account the
cost of construction,
logistics, all that type of stuff? Okay, that's a very interesting stat.
Yeah.
So that's suggesting that the technology is there.
Technology is absolutely there. So storage is the difficulty that renewables has had.
Is that the big problem now, the storage of energy?
No, not anymore, because we can do pumped hydro. We can also do batteries. So the cost of batteries is coming down all the time. Batteries are now viable. There's a dirty great big battery that's going into Canberra, into the ACT. There's a dirty great big one in South Australia and another one planned, I think. So and pumped hydro, so building dams where you pump water up. That's a great option.
Absolutely.
Hydrogen is another one. So with solar, or wind, you can break water atoms into oxygen and hydrogen, and then when the wind stops or the sun goes down, you can reburn that hydrogen.
Okay.
You can get methane off tips, so that's another thing that you could be using at night.
How do you get methane off the
just
tips?
pipe off the methane from the tip.
Okay.
So they put pipes underground and collect it, and then run a combustion engine
Okay.
at night. So yeah.
Okay. Does that combustion engine have pollutants going into the atmosphere?
Yeah. So it produces CO2 too, but the thing is that methane's about 100 times worse. So you're collecting a really bad
Okay.
fossil. Well, it's not a fossil fuel, but it's becoming fossilized, I guess. So it's breaking down, and it produces methane.
Mm-hmm.
So as it breaks down, it produces methane, and you collect the methane and burn it.
Okay. So this evidence here from RMIT is suggesting that it is not only beneficial but cheaper to run solar and wind.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Now, I don't know anything about that at all. I'm taking it from RMIT. They're the experts. Okay, cool. That sounds good. So why aren't we doing that?
Because of corruption.
Is it just corruption? Because why wouldn't people be jumping into this as well? Like, if they can save money, if they can make more money from selling the exact same product at the exact same price, but less money having to be invested into it, wouldn't people be doing that to save their bottom line?
Yep, and they are. So householders are putting a lot of solar onto roofs, and I think Australia's, probably I think that they're the biggest. I think actually the Prime Minister was saying that we've got the highest amount of solar on roofs, and it's a sunny country, so it makes sense. And I've got solar on my roof, and it takes about 4 or 5 years, or maybe 6 years to pay off the solar, and after that you got free electricity. Wind is generally, big commercial operations, and there's a lot of investment happening right around the world with wind.
Okay.
So right through Europe, Tasmania, the south end of Australia is getting a lot of wind farms. So, the thing is that the government could be doing more, and, the government is not very enthusiastic about wind farms. They say that they're ugly. Quite often Liberal Party members have said that they're ugly. Not that, a coal-fired power station is beautiful. I don't think that wind farms are particularly ugly, but, they're certainly producing power with much less emissions. So there is some emissions in the construction, but obviously once it's constructed and once it's installed, there's no emissions there.
Okay.
Whereas with coal, you've got to dig it up, you've got to transport it, you've got to burn it, and then you've got to clean up after all the mess. So you've got to clean up the smoke. So the smoke comes out, and you've got to collect what they can. But some of the emissions from a coal-fired power station they can't collect because it's too fine or it's too hard to collect. And that's killing people who are downwind from a power station, or people in Beijing, or some of those.
So what happens if you're not in Australia and you have a country that isn't, perhaps, let's say England, and there's not that much sunshine there? How does it, or if it's not very windy for perhaps a couple of weeks, there's just, for whatever reason, it's not that windy. What happens then?
Well, there's a few things. So we could sell them hydrogen, so that'd be one thing. They also still install solar, but it's not as, they're not going to get as much electricity from it.
When you say sell hydrogen, as in sell the gas,
yes.
How do you get the gas there?
So you run electricity through water.
Yeah.
And it'll bubble.
Yes.
And you get at one connection you get oxygen.
Yep.
And at the other you get hydrogen. So you just collect the hydrogen.
No, sorry, I mean, how do you get the hydrogen to the people in England?
Got to stick it in a ship.
Okay.
And you got to transport it.
Yeah. So that there comes some emissions there.
Obviously. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the way to handle that is to offset it. So you can plant forests and collect the CO2 out of the atmosphere that way.
Okay.
And it's good for wildlife.
Do you think maybe with the Extinction Rebellion, maybe we should be trying to, or they should be trying to encourage people to plant more trees?
Yeah. And there's lots of different little subgroups in Extinction Rebellion, and some people are really focused on that.
Like, what if they planted 1 million trees?
Be great.
And that's a positive news story.
It is.
People see these guys doing that, they go, wow, that's awesome, that's fantastic. Maybe I should plant a tree or a couple of trees, or maybe I'm going to give them some money so they can plant some more trees to take that CO2 out of the air.
Look, it's a great idea, and we need to be doing these sorts of things, but we also need to stop burning coal.
Yeah.
And, you know, if we keep burning coal, we're going to have temperature rising, we're going to have acidification of oceans, so that, you know, that makes it difficult for coral. It's not adapted to very high CO2 and very acid oceans.
So, and I don't disagree with any of that. I'm obviously not a scientist, but from what I've read, it sounds absolutely. It sounds like something that is obvious when you put shit into the atmosphere. So my point in all of this isn't to disagree with you. It's just to say that I think that the way that Extinction Rebellion are operating and trying to get people to listen is not only not working, it may be working now, but it's putting people against you. I think you'll find more people will become anti-climate change, if you will, rather than sitting down and listening and going, yes, we need to listen to these people.
I think it's bringing it into the discussion. So you know, you contacted Extinction Rebellion and wanted to hear why they're doing what they're doing. So, you know, that's been fantastic. And you may be well right. Okay, so it may be a self-defeating tactic. And, you know, it's a debate that will, you know, keep going.
Of course. With
Extinction Rebellion. But the thing is that we are conducting, I guess, a rebellion because governments aren't listening. And I think that, you know, that Australians can't trust their government to do the right thing by the people. That's terrible. You know, why do we have this situation where, it was just a statistic that I read, that the coal industry is giving the federal government $900,000 in political donations. That is so little compared to the damage that it's doing. So the damage to the Great Barrier Reef, the damage to you know, the fishing industry, tourism industry. You know, if we have a storm, this property here could flood from memory. I'm just trying to remember the flood maps, but I think it's in a flood zone. So, you know, it's a big cost to the people in the street. You know, climate change is going to impact all of us. And it could be really terrible. It could be, you know, in those fires that we had for 6 days here, you know, the whole of the Gold Coast was blanketed in really heavy smoke, and it really affected me. And I spoke to my doctor, and he had a heap of people who were coming in with respiratory difficulty. And, you know, people will die from that. I'm assuming that people did die, elderly people or infants that are really prone, because it made me really sick for, you know, 6 days and a few days after.
We've just had the same thing in Newcastle where I'm from. There's bad fires and it's coded for a number of days. And once again, I don't disagree with you. I want to know from your point of view, as a part of the Gold Coast faction of Extinction Rebellion, do you disagree with the tactics of standing in the middle of the road and jumping on the top of trains and hanging off bridges and basically ruining people's days to get attention?
Well, you know, I mean, an answer that you could have to that is that a flood, a bad storm on the Gold Coast is going to ruin more than a person's day. So, you know, I'm really keen to bring the community with us. And the only thing that I can say is, yes, maybe Extinction Rebellion will decide that it's not a tactic that we want to keep going with. But, it's a tactic they've started with, and it's a tactic that's been really successful in getting the message out. And sitting in the traffic for 10 minutes, that's inconvenient.
But people hate floods.
Yeah.
They don't want to think about floods.
No. They might have to.
They might have to.
Yeah.
But people also don't want to think about climate change now because it is annoying them. They're sick of hearing about it. I think they are.
Yeah, maybe.
I absolutely can tell you they are. Like, I'm someone who reads this stuff and goes, holy shit, we need to do something. People need to put more money into this. Okay, we obviously need to stop using fossil fuels over the next X amount of years.
Yeah.
But
and you can't do that either. So you need government policy to help you, if you want to do the right thing, to come on board. And
are there politicians involved with Extinction Rebellion? Are they running for political parties?
Obviously there's the Greens. So the Greens have been banging on about this for 30 years.
But no one takes the Greens seriously.
I know. And why is that?
Because they're batshit.
Really?
They have great ideas. 50% of the ideas are great. 50% are terrible.
Yeah, maybe you're
Plastic straws. Paper straws.
Yeah.
I'm off it.
Are you?
I'm a climate change denier now because of plastic paper straws. That is ruining my life. Okay?
But
I'm happy to put them in the noses of penguins or possums or whatever. Just give me back a plastic bloody straw.
It's hard on wildlife. I don't know what we can do. Maybe we can get, I don't know, something else.
Actually, what? I was overseas recently. They had not penne pasta. What pasta was it? A sort of pasta they were using as a straw.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a great idea.
Yeah. We'll come up with something.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll come up with a plastic that, and this is what we should be more focused on, is plastics that break down in the environment. Because the trouble with plastics is they're there for 500 years.
Yes.
So about 500 years. So, and you can make plastics out of a lot of material, like I think they're making it out of banana plants. So when they cut down a banana plant, I think the plant can be used to make plastics.
Sure.
So we need to be coming up with solutions like that. But the other reason I would say that the Greens have been on the nose is because for 30 years, the Murdoch press has run a campaign against them.
Okay.
And the Murdoch press is taking money from the mining industry, so the coal miners, and the Murdoch press doesn't pay tax. So there's a big issue with, and it goes around Facebook fairly regularly, the number of big corporations like the News Corp that don't pay tax. They're ripping off you and me.
Now, I know a lot of people, when you start saying, you got to trust what you read in the paper. You can't trust everything you read in the papers, and you got to realise there's a business behind it. I had that early on where my old man was the head of a union, and the Murdoch press, the News Corp, went out and said outlandish things that were absolutely not true. And now it's happened to me in the past with things that I've said on stage or whatever.
Yeah.
And people come out and they say outrageous things. And it's fake within yourself. And you think to yourself, okay, this is like, what else is fake news, so to speak? Like, what other bullshit are they coming out with? Or what other they trying to... who are they trying to? What donors? What people involved in their corporation are they trying to make? Either give them a foot forward? Are they trying to help them out? What are they trying to do here? It really does open your eyes. But when you say, you need to understand that News Corp are doing this, people switch off.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but that is an absolute truth.
Yeah. I think that it's important that we have a media that we can trust. And it's a big issue at the moment. So, with fake news. But if you've got a media organisation that is deliberately spreading deceptive information for the benefit of the mining industry and for the detriment of the people of Australia, that's a betrayal, I think, that is disgusting. And, our Prime Minister is doing that. So he's betraying the people of Australia for the benefit of the mining industry. And you've got a generation of kids that are coming up, and they're seeing that they're inheriting a world which is in a bloody mess. And climate is part of it. But, things like, wars that are going on for 30 years. We've had Australian troops in the Middle East for nearly 30 years. I mean, what the hell is with that? And I think it's a sign of corruption. I mean, that's really good for the arms industry. It's not good for, if you got a family member who gets killed over there. And, young people are worried about the fact that we've lost 50% of the coral on the Great Barrier Reef and that we're going to lose between 70 and 90% if we hit 1.5 degrees of warming above, the pre-industrial levels. And, they've got to find solutions. They're young people who've got to find solutions to repairing the damage.
Are you referring to like the school strikes and all those type of stuff?
Yeah.
Do you think the kids really care?
I think that the kids are better educated than their parents because it's fresh in their mind. They're learning science, they're learning physics, they're learning biology in school.
Yeah.
So it's fresh in their minds. And, when you get older, you forget a lot of that stuff. And I think that, you see stuff when they see stuff in the media and when they see stuff, on TV, or maybe their parents watch the ABC. And, there's a lot of science on the ABC. I watch a lot of it. And, I guess when I was growing up, there was the threat of nuclear war. And that, again, that was another horrible thing that we had to think about, and it hasn't gone away, but it would be great to leave the planet the way we found it, the way we came into the world.
Is that possible though?
Yeah, it is. So, and the tech.
Do you really think that that's possible? Like, how do we? Without the government putting money into electric cars, without changing ships into and having electric planes and all that type of stuff, like that's where a lot of fossil fuels coming from, burning petrol.
Yeah.
How do you change that?
Well,
particularly, I know with Extinction Rebellion, when you have a target of 0 by 2025.
Yeah. And if you had a government that was really committed to it, that's easily doable, I reckon. This is just my opinion. I think that we could do it quicker than that. But, first of all, we need to shift the political conversation first.
So what do you do with people's jobs who are in coal? Now, in saying that, I think that at some point in time in a lot of jobs, too bad, the world's moved on.
That's right.
But in 5 years between now and 2025, what do you do with the unemployment in Australia?
All of the environmental groups, and including Extinction Rebellion, have said that we need to have a just transition for people in the coal industry. So, we need to invest in their future. And one of the obvious things that we could be doing is we could be doing conservation work in these areas. So a lot of coal mines are in the centre of Australia, or, inland anyway. And a lot of those areas could have federal funding to rehabilitate areas that where there's wildlife, where there's really serious extinction threats. So, and that's a big thing with Extinction Rebellion, is that we're facing the 6th mass extinction. So in the past on planet Earth, a meteor has hit and wiped out much of the life. Human activity now is causing a lot of extinctions. And in Australia, it's a really big concern with a lot of species that are, and their habitats that are, and other plants and animals that might be dependent on a single species, losing those species. What was your question?
With the miners, so you put those people to work, but who funds that? The federal government. But where does the money come from that? If they don't have money coming in from the coal tax, all that type of stuff, where does the money come from?
That's such a good question. I'm glad you asked that question, because why the fuck in Australia are we so dependent on mining and so dependent on immigration. You know, the two big industries we've got here is property, you know, property development and mining. Why don't we have cutting edge new industries that the government could help to encourage, and the federal government's not doing that because the coal industry doesn't want it to. So invest in new technologies, new industries. We've got so many advantages in this country. We've got heaps of lithium. So I think we're the best. We've got the most lithium that can be mined in any country. So there's some in South America as well and other places. But so we've got natural advantages. We've got advantages that it's a really sunny country. And so we can produce hydrogen. We can stick it in a ship and we can send it off to countries like China or Japan or Europe that don't have some of the advantages that they don't have the sun, or it's colder.
with the solar technology, all of that is built out of aluminium, I assume, and even with lithium, you have to get those out of the ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's, you know, what I'm saying.
It causes pollution too.
Yes.
So you know, we've got to be sustainable. So, you know, we might dig a dirty, great big hole, but if as a country we're reforesting Australia, you know, I think that's acceptable. You know, we do have some needs, and you know, I think, you know, we're going to have to burn coal for a bit longer. It's going to be a while because hydrogen technology is new, and it's going to take, you know, perhaps decades to get hydrogen to really take over from coal. And I don't have a problem with that. Look, what I want to do is I want to make sure the Great Barrier Reef is okay. And, you know, David Attenborough says that, you know, we're in danger of losing the reef. We'll lose it if it goes to 2 degrees.
And there's science on all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, I just listen to scientists. I watch docos, and I listen to what they have to say, and yeah.
And as I said before, I agree with everything you're saying. I just disagree with the way it is being spread amongst the public. I just think there's better ways to do it.
Yeah. Well, you're not alone. And inside Extinction Rebellion, not alone.
I feel like you're against it.
I have been. So I've argued strongly against that policy, but I've had to think about it. And I think that if we were to block the roads at, say, Palm Beach for 10 minutes and inconvenience people for 10 minutes or half an hour to get into the media that Palm Beach is really in danger of, you know, having floodwaters up to the roof. You know, people have got to think about that. And their home is a big investment. So if they, you know, lose their contents and lose a lot of value off their home, and if that happens more often, because storms tend to come in groups, you tend to go through a stormy phase and a less stormy phase. So, you know, it could be devastating to somebody who's worked all their life to pay off their home, and maybe they need to move for a job and it just doesn't have the value anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that I don't think that 10-minute blockage is correct. I think it's a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
I think it's more invasive than that.
Yeah.
I think it's at peak hour, which endangers people's jobs. I think it gets people off on the wrong side of it at all. And people who aren't even being affected by it, like I'm in Newcastle, I haven't been affected by it, but I hear about it on the news. And now Extinction Rebellion has become the enemy.
Yeah.
I don't think that's good, man.
Yeah.
I think that's bad. I think you're doing a good thing. You're trying to save the planet. Wonderful.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're carrying on like fuckwits.
Yeah. You know, we blocked a bridge in Brisbane, and it was blocked probably for about 3 or 4 hours. So it's not the only entry and exit to Brisbane. But, you know, it's a decision that I won't be making it. You know, I think you've got some support. I can't say anything else. You know, it's something that we're evaluating. And there's a lot of other tactics that we can use. You know, we can directly communicate a lot more with politicians. And that's something that I want to do, you know. So, you know, if we protest and you know, make a really visual presence outside Parliament House, it may get, you know, quite a lot of media, and it may put more pressure on the politicians. So, you know, it's maybe a better tactic, and maybe we'll switch across to that. I don't know. So
I gained 1 million people to follow this channel by basically talking shit about vegan people.
Yeah.
I think if you can go after people and tell people like given the scientific facts, talk to them on the level that people want to talk on that level, person to person.
Yeah.
Because at the moment it seems like it's Extinction Rebellion against people who are trying to get to work.
Yeah.
Talk to them,
Yeah.
give them the information they need, have it in a digestible, entertaining way that people will stay on and give them their full attention. Yeah. Is that not the more appropriate way to go about these type of things? Because we're in a society now where people are dying for information on things. Yeah. They want to jump into groups, much like Extinction Rebellion. And I find this with a lot of groups like the Feminism March, vegan movements, things like that. People just want to belong to something.
Yeah.
So they see the Extinction Rebellion, they go, right, I'm going to belong to that. They start gluing themselves to the road, which is, all right, whatever. If you want to glue yourself to the road, go ahead.
It's also, I think it gets across the sense of desperation that we feel. So in Extinction Rebellion, there's a lot of people who are scientists. You know, I think it'd probably be a higher percentage than in the general population. But, you know, I think that a lot of people work in conservation, and I'll tell you about one of our members who's a young woman, and with the fires, she had to go up and fight the fires. So she was in the CFA. And so she was fighting fires, you know, for 12 hours a day without proper breathing apparatus. So she's breathing the smoke about 6 days in a row. I don't know if she did every single day, but she was getting paid for, I think, 8 hours. So she wasn't getting paid for overtime. You know, she came back and she went up and blockaded a road, because she doesn't want to, I don't think she wants to be doing that. And I don't think that the next generation want to be doing more of that. I'm not saying that fires don't happen, but, you know, the severity of fires, and these are the worst we've had, young people don't want to be doing that. She was locked up for the night and given a $300 fine, and she felt good about doing that. She wanted to do that. And school kids are wanting to take, you know, to
days
strike.
Off school.
Yeah.
Man, I would have been at that rally too. I would have been at that rally too. I wouldn't have given a shit. I would have just been like, a day off, all right, that'll do. You know? And I think, I don't disagree. I think some kids are wanting to do good. And I think it's a very noble cause that people want to, particularly when they're young. They want to get out there, they want to save the world. And unfortunately, a lot of people get to the point where they get a bit old, they go, oh, it's too hard. They give up.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things that need to be sorted out with this world, and the environment is definitely one of them. I think we need to move away from coal. I absolutely think we need to do that, but it's going to take a long time, and it's going to take a lot of work, and I don't think that blocking buildings and blocking roads and bridges is the best way to take that foot forward. I think there's other ways to do it. And I know I keep going.
It's 1 year old, so the Extinction Rebellion is just over 1 year old. So, you know, give it time, and you know, the way they go about doing things may be different.
What are your thoughts on Greta Thunberg?
Well, I think that's a great question. Again, because I think she's really interesting, and some of her speeches, like, I've watched them and I've just, it's, she's, you know, I've been stunned by her speeches. And, you know, I like watching some of the orators. So there was recently a doco on Adolf Hitler, and he's an amazing orator, totally evil. Absolutely. But an amazing orator. But I don't want to compare the two, but Greta, you know, I think that one of her strengths is, you know, a lot of talk about her Asperger's, and I thought, oh, maybe she had a speechwriter, but somebody said, no, she's really blunt. Those speeches are so blunt. And, you know, I think that she has written the speeches, and I think that she's expressing the grief or some of the disillusionment with her parents' generation and her grandparents' generation that are leaving a world that's really troubled. You know, like politically it's troubled. You know, the climate change issue, it's troubled. You know, we should have, after the end of the Cold War, we should have had warfare. We should have seen the end of war. Why have we still got wars?
There's always been wars.
Yeah, but do we need to keep doing this?
We're tribalistic people. Everyone hates everyone. You don't trust people. That's why there's problems. I think that's the general reason for racism, is because people are tribalistic. And it's this weird trust thing.
But you and me, we're getting along all right so far. So
yeah, what do you...
And you know, I would be interested to see you actually interview somebody who's, you know, like Clementine.
I really want to interview Clementine.
Do you?
I'm absolutely open to that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the things that she might believe, I probably believe as well.
Yeah.
But it's just it's just often it's the delivery.
Yeah.
And the thing with the Clementine is a lot of the things that she says is often disputed very heavily.
Oh, absolutely.
And she's just not a very nice person. But I'd love to have a conversation with her.
Have you read her book, or have you seen her
I don't really like hang around the fiction section too much. But
it's not fiction.
Well, I mean that's debatable.
No, her first book is Fight Like a Girl. And yes.
Are you a Clementine fan?
No.
Are you a closet Clementine fan?
Yes and no.
The Extinction Rebellion supports Clementine Ford.
No way. Look, I can't speak for, I must say that I can't speak for Extinction Rebellion totally. So some of the time I'm happy to speak for them, but
that's
not,
where you
not
drew the
all the
line
time.
about a Clementine.
No, yeah, probably. But the thing about her is, like, I was listening to her on the ABC, as you do, and she was just so ruthless in the way she tackled me. And I thought, oh my goodness. And like I was having trouble with the banks, and I thought, I'll have to have a listen to that, read the book, or, you know, I got it on YouTube. And, you know, some of those tactics work quite nicely with banks.
And they do. The thing with Clementine is she's very ruthless, but then if the tables turn on her and someone's ruthless to her, she appeals for support.
Yeah. I think she just needs a good hug. I don't know. She's hurting. Like, you know, if you read her story, you know, it's hard not to have some compassion for her and to understand where her anger comes from.
Man, Clementine and I, we'd
Yeah.
probably get along on a personal level.
Yeah.
We probably would. Like, I don't find that there's many people I don't get along with on a personal level, regardless of your beliefs or anything like that. Like, I'm polite to everyone, and if you're polite to me, then we're going to have a general discourse that is polite. I just disagree on some of the things that she, well, most of the things that she believes wholeheartedly, and that is her religion now.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I think that's just part of life. My point with the tribalistic sort of thing is, when you have these big groups of people, and there's this dispersion of responsibility. You don't have to really worry about what happens over here, over there. If we were in a small tribe, there's 4 of us in this room right now. If this was a tribe, there wouldn't be any wars. There wouldn't be any racism, sexism, or anything like that, because we're so close. Everyone has this ability and this need to sort of, look after the people near each other. But when you have a big group, that's when all these wars come in. And they come in because of whether it's political...
I think it's making money. It's about
political
making
disruption.
money.
Absolutely.
Who the fuck wants to go to war? Who the hell wants to send their kids off to war?
No one does. It's maybe different because of in World War II.
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
That's different. But now the military-industrial complex is one of the biggest businesses in America. They make an absolute fortune.
We'd solve all our problems in 2 or 3 weeks with the money from...
If you invested that money into someone else, and that's probably where you need to put it. Instead of war, instead of... You know, don't get me wrong, defence is important, obviously.
Absolutely.
But perhaps we need to be... Also, on the topic of asteroids, if we go back, I think NASA spends like $1 million a year on asteroid defences. Yeah. Asteroids have wiped out everyone ever, all right? So can we just, NASA, if you're watching, sort your shit out and put some money into the fucking asteroid defences? Because if an asteroid's coming in and it's going to hit, we won't need to worry about climate change or Greta.
You're right. You're right.
All right, what do we got here?
So that's, and you can get this off the NASA website, but that's carbon.
Okay.
So it's going through the roof.
Yep.
And This is off the NASA website, so I just thought I'd mention it while. So it's just, all I took was some of the headings. So this is the science. You know, if you don't accept the science and if you are really, you know, some people, like I argue with people who believe the stuff that's on the coal websites.
Is there scientists that disagree with other scientists about this?
Yeah, it's really important in science to have disagreement. So down here it says there's, well, extrapolating was, it says that there's 3% of scientists who are disputing what the 97%.
Okay, so
who are saying that,
the thing with that 3% number, and I've heard that before, and I don't disagree with it, is that that's 3% who are happy to put their hand up and say that I disagree with that.
Yeah.
Perhaps there's more.
Perhaps there's more.
Perhaps there's less. Who knows?
You know, I think that if you've got a viewpoint which is unpopular, you've got to have the courage to stand up and speak your mind, and that's really important.
That's hard though.
But that ethic is in science. So the ethic of criticism. So scientists criticize each other a lot, and that's the strength of science. And you know, there's so much that you can easily demonstrate with the global warming issues. So you can go up to the Great Barrier Reef and have a look for yourself. Don't be a dickhead like what's her name?
Clementine.
No, the other no, the politician. What's her name?
Pauline.
Don't go to the south end of the bloody reef. Go up beyond Cairns and have a look at what coral bleaching looks like. And I think, who are we going to trust if we're not going to trust the scientists? You know, are we going to trust the coal industry? I mean, that's ridiculous. They've got they've got money to burn to
they haven't
politicians.
Invested. They have a massive investment
right.
in coming to that coming to terms with that sort of thing. That's what I'm trying to say. But so do you guys.
Mate, I'm living in poverty.
But this is your belief.
I know, but I get my food from the big bin at the back of the supermarkets because I'm saving money because I get $450 a week from the houses that I'm renting. Okay, so you know. I've got to find ways to. I'm trying to do crowdfunding, and it's a tough gig, you know. So, and I hate ringing up and asking people for money. So, if I'm committed to being an activist, and I'm really passionate about the environment, you know, I need to be able to raise funds through crowdfunding or something like that.
Are you putting things online? Are you making YouTube videos?
Some, yeah, but mainly at the moment I'm mainly focused with. The banking situation with the banks.
Okay. Are you putting that information online?
Yes. So I've got quite a strong presence there. But the people that it affects, you know, there's been terrible cases where the banks have just cleaned people out. So, you know, there was a farmer who was in his 80s and the ANZ Bank said to him, we've revalued your property. We've valued it at half as what it was valued at. We want you to pay up now straight away, or we'll kick you off the land, off your property. And they kicked him off. Alan Jones went, Cactus and Channel 9 as well, ran some really good items on their situation. And in the end, ANZ gave him the farm back. But there are many thousands of farmers, many tens of thousands of people who've been totally screwed over by the banks.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's another disgusting, corrupt system. And in Australia, we have household debt, which is the second highest in the world. And, you know, we're really vulnerable to a second global financial crisis. So, you know, the world economy is weak. The Australian economy is weak. The Australian economy is in recession. It's in a per capita recession. It's not in an official recession, but economists are saying that it's in a per capita recession. And the only way we're keeping it out of recession is by having such a high immigrant rate. So we've got about 450 migrants coming into the country. I think that was 2017 or 18. So it's really high immigration rate. So, with the high household debt, Australia is really vulnerable. We escaped the first global financial crisis. It's going to be tough. If we have another global financial shock, it's going to be tough in Australia.
Definitely.
And it's, we have, like in my lifetime, my mother's lifetime, so she was born just after the Depression. So we've got no idea how bad things could get. So,
things can always get terribly worse. Absolutely. I'm fascinated by all of this, and it's something that I think we all need to know a little bit more about. But there's so much to cover in one episode.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to sort of first,
no, you go.
What I was going to suggest, I wanted to ask if you've got anything else you'd like to bring up. I know you've got a lot of pieces of information here. Is there anything else you'd like to bring up before we wrap things up today?
I don't know.
What I was going to say
go on.
was with the Extinction Rebellion. I just feel like you've got a good message, but you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be better if every one of those activists, every one of those protesters did something positive for every single person they run into? Yeah.
Look, we've done that. So look, I've been involved in conservation, so I've been involved in tree planting. One of the things as an arborist I really tried to do, I got interested in environmental issues, and I started telling people that I wasn't going to cut down their tree. They'd say, give me a price to cut down this tree. And I'd say, no, I don't think you should cut that tree down because it's local habitat. It was perhaps, supporting wildlife. I'd look at trees around their whole property and I'd say, maybe these trees here are shading the house in winter and you should have a look at them. So I tried to give them, really good advice, both environmentally and what was going to work well on their property. And, why doesn't the coal industry just say, look, we need to move out of coal, we'll start investing in something that's worthwhile, that's going to support the community, not like Glencore that rips off our minerals, does its very best to try to avoid paying tax, and doesn't give a shit about the community. Glencore's registered offices in Jersey, so it's a tax haven. That's disgusting. And I don't know why the government, we've been banging on about corporations ripping us off for many years now. They're letting these bastards get away with it.
But they're not the only people that have got tax havens.
No.
It's not just mining people.
Close them down. Look, honestly, we had the Rudd government were going to bring in a super profits tax. Sounds like a good idea to me. Norway's they tax and they control their oil really well. So it's a really wealthy country with a really wealthy sovereign wealth fund.
A super high tax rate, yeah?
No. They don't need to have a high tax rate. They've got oil. Look, I don't know, I'm not a tax expert, but I know that each individual Norwegian has 1 million kroner in their sovereign wealth fund. And Tony Abbott, I reckon the most corrupt politician that we've ever had, campaigned against the super profits tax, and these bastards have taken our wealth, and we haven't got that much for it. We've got a bit of a sovereign wealth fund, not as good as it could have been.
I think that a lot of activists should be more like you, willing to engage with people.
Yeah.
Because people who are yelling and screaming hysterically, people don't take seriously.
Yeah.
And from what I can tell, you're not one of those people. You think about these things logically and you think about how it impacts other people, but you have a message and you have a belief and you have things that you want to do in this world. And I think that's a very positive thing. And I thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate that. And I'd just like to point out that I don't disagree with what the message that Extinction Rebellion is trying to put, or the things they're trying to do. They're trying to help people. I think the people that are involved, and a lot of the people who are involved, are in it for the wrong reasons. And I think that a lot of people are just there to just cause a disruption, be a part of something, and it's popular. And that's fine. That's how movements start. And I get that. But I just think there's better ways to go about it. And I think you agree as well. And I think that's a positive step forward. And hopefully the Extinction Rebellion faction on the Gold Coast don't go around blocking off anyone's roads, because everyone knows who's in charge.
Well, look, Extinction Rebellion, we have a policy of civil disobedience, because we believe that the situation is just so serious. And, the Murdoch press casts us as all a pack of lefties, and some of us are. But, I think that if we've got a problem in Australia, we need to come together and work on the problem. So, if we need to change the situation so that we're not polluting the environment, hopefully Australians can come together. And the Murdoch press, I reckon, divides the community. It's not about working towards what the scientists say that we need to work towards. It's about dividing the community, looking after their corrupt mining mates. And, I'm not a lefty. I'm pretty centre of the road, I think. And, some of my attitudes are quite conservative.
Really?
Yeah.
Like what?
Well, I've, been in business all my life.
There you go.
And, I'm a property investor.
Sure.
And I traded the stock market, I was a speculator. So,
I think that's the place to be, though, the middle of the road.
Yeah.
Take the best from both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. Both have got good ideas.
Yes, take both. But this wanting to belong and needing to, take everything on board.
Yeah.
I mean, even when you say when you refer to as Extinction Rebellion, we say this, we say that. That's I think that for you, perhaps not so much of an issue. You're a person that's been involved in a lot of businesses. You know that you can make your own sort of decisions. But for a younger person, Extinction Rebellion say this, then okay, they're the leaders. I believe that now.
Look, I reckon you want to get on some of these school kids, because they can articulate their position really well. And I think that they've thought about it. And I think that Greta's thought about it. It just was the problem of our age. And, she wanted to do something about it. So, that there's a lot of the school kids, give speeches at events. And, I think that they, I've spoken to them, and they can, I think, on any topic, a young person can,
of course,
articulate fairly
young
well.
Aren't stupid.
At 16,
Yeah, of course. You're an adult.
Yeah.
You're pretty much an adult. But with Greta, I feel like she now is a part of this movement, and she's perhaps one of the leaders of the movement.
Yeah.
But earlier on in her life, I think she was very much indoctrinated into it by her parents.
What, the scientific information? I mean, it's just the science,
And by indoctrinated, I don't mean in a negative sense. I mean she is given this, she's force-fed it, whether it's true or not.
Yeah.
It's like a religion. You're force-fed it, now it becomes your life.
Yeah.
And I worry about that for kids. Like when she's saying, we need to, how dare you, and watch out, and we need to do this and that, otherwise we're all going to die. This terrifying nature. I think when people are scared, they don't act straight away. I think they act in a way where it's self-preservation.
Yeah.
Or maybe they push it away, they hide from it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of that, yeah.
I don't know. But thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate
worries.
it. Thank
It
you,
was great.
sir. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Isaac.
My pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, check out our Clips channel if you want to digest these videos in a shorter amount of time. Perhaps you're visiting the bathroom or catching up with your mates. I don't know. You're in the car, you listen to it. Fantastic stuff. Make sure you check us out on Spotify and iTunes as well. And we'll be back here next week with another episode. Connor, have you... I'm on tour. Come and check me out. We've only got a few shows left before the end of the year. Some big ones in Sydney, and there's a massive one happening on the Gold Coast, Brisbane. Oh, I'm absolutely everywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, be a good motherfucker. Peace in the Middle East. Me dick stinks. I'll see you all very soon. Toodaloo. Bye.